Hey guys, welcome back to the Savage Omega build series where I provide the best builds to help you efficiently and safely farm Savage Omega, and today we're going to cover a Charge Blade build using Savage Axe to farm the Savage version of Omega. Now, in this matchup, most of your Savage Axe openings will come from Rocket Punches and Wounds. However, accessing Savage Axe through Rocket Punches can be risky since Rocket Punch deals heavy damage, and Omega follows up with Flamethrower usually. So if you mistime your perfect guard, you can easily get comboed. So only go for it if you're confident in your timing, but you can also get perfect guard from Atomic Rays as well. Now, alternatively, you can charge your sword instead, and your sword damage is still pretty solid, or you can just wait for a wound to pop and unleash your Savage Axe when it's safe. So for offense, we're running Thunder Attack, Load Shells, Agitator level 5, Coalescence level 3, and Weakness Exploit level 2. So we're running 2 gore pieces to take advantage of the Coalescence buff, and we had to skip Antivirus to make room for Speed Eating, which helps you with survivability by letting you access your potions faster. But if you would rather use Antivirus to get the extra 10% affinity, you can do that. That's just up to you. Now, for Sharpness Management, we're running Razor Sharp level 3 and Handicraft level 2. And for defense, we're running Guard Up level 3 and Guard Up level 1, which lets you block some of Omega's stronger attacks. Alright, let's head to the table of contents to see what's in the video. Alright guys, if you're already comfortable with the Charge Blade vs Savage Omega matchup and just want the build details, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamp below. However, if you want a full walkthrough covering how to use this build effectively against Omega, how to handle his attacks, and exactly what your punish windows are, then stick around for the build playstyle guide so you can see the full breakdown. Alright, let's get started. So once the hunt starts, you want to move straight to Omega's rear and begin attacking his back legs, and since we're dealing sever damage, this will give you the highest damage output. Now, you want to start charging your files right away using your charge double slash to quickly build your files to yellow or red. Now, around this point, Omega will usually start throwing rocket punches. Now, when it comes to rocket punches, you can go for a perfect guard to enter Savage mode, but remember what I mentioned earlier, that Omega often follows it up with Flamethrower, which can easily combo you if you mistime your guard. Now, instead of risking it, I play safe using throwing knives to pop the rocket punches from a distance and then keep the momentum going. Now, let's actually talk about Flamethrower, because Charge Blade's dodge is just a short hop, so you'll want to block this attack instead of rolling through it. Just note that blocking Flamethrower puts you in a brief hit stun, roughly a little over a second, which is longer than most other shielded weapons, but that could be because our shield isn't charged just yet. Now, once your shield is actually charged, if you're targeted by another rocket punch, it's better to guard too early than too late. So in the clip below, we guarded a bit early and get a normal guard, but if we had been late, we would have taken a hit. So remember, early guard is always safer than a late one. Now, another thing to note is that sometimes Omega's movements won't give you the opening to fully charge your sword with charge double slash. So in those cases, it's perfectly fine to just use your standard sword combo, just to keep your to be able to charge your files. Now, once your files are fully charged, if you don't have your Savage Axe mode, just charge your sword instead, so you'll be able to deal increased sword damage to Omega and keep the damage going. Now, just follow that general rhythm where you're building files, charging your sword. If you do get a Savage Axe buff in this phase, that's really good, and then just aim for his rear legs. But if not, just keep playing it safe. Use your charged sword to attack his back legs, and mainly just block his attacks. That's really much it. Like, just block his attacks. Okay, now let's transition to Area 2. Now for Area 2, there's a specific attack sequence I want you to pay attention to, and it's one that I mentioned in several of my previous videos. It's when Omega launches his Mortar Fire and starts sidestepping. This pattern is a key indicator that he's preparing for his Laser Beam attack. So here's what he's trying to do. Omega wants to catch you in the Mortar Fire, knock you down, and then time his Laser Beam to hit as you're getting up, essentially turning into a one-shot combo. To avoid this, simply roll out of the Mortar Fire zone and you'll be rewarded with a free punish window. And on top of that, you want to make sure that you roll out and then basically like sheath your weapon so you can just outrun whatever attack he's doing and then get to a side and get the punish window. So even without Savage Axe, your charged sword attacks can still dish out solid damage while you're building up your Savage Axe, in the sense that you're waiting for a wound or you're waiting for the perfect guard. Next, you'll actually see we land a successful perfect guard on a rocket punch, activating our Savage Axe mode. Now, notice that this time only one rocket punch came towards us. Sometimes Omega will send one rocket punch to each player, or even 2 towards one player. So if you're planning to trigger your Savage Axe using rocket punch, make sure you do it when he only throws out one rocket punch, otherwise you'll get overwhelmed. So this is one of the challenges of the charge blade matchup, which is, to activate the Savage Axe, you need to take a calculated risk against, with your perfect guards. So that's what makes this matchup a bit more difficult, because in order to really turn up your weapon, you have to get a perfect guard. And when it comes to actively like perfect guarding Omega's attacks, it's a lot riskier than other monsters. Now, once Omega has a wound open, you have a chance to pop it, and you can see that in this clip, our wound pop deals around 1500 damage or more, which is pretty massive. And then after the wound pop, Omega deploys a protective shield because we popped the head wound. And that's a perfect time to safely use your Savage Axe chainsaw ticks while maintaining pressure. So whenever Omega has a wound on his head, try to target, because you'll not only build a Savage Axe, but you'll also get a protective barrier, giving you breathing room to continue actually using your Savage Axe, because those attack animations are long, they're disruptible, you don't have your block, and you don't have your roll. So that's one of the disadvantages that Savage Axe has in this matchup, just because to access your biggest DPS buff, you have to, take a risk. And on top of that, once you get that DPS buff, you know those attacks that have long animations, you don't have your block. So yeah, but when you do have your Savage Axe and you're able to deal damage, it is a lot of damage. Now, even though I'm attacking Omega's forelegs in this clip, remember, you're dealing severed damage, so you want to be hitting the back legs. But the only reason that I'm attacking the forelegs here is because we have that shield. So whenever the shield is there, you want to prioritize the forelegs, because that's where the shield is. So you want to prioritize protection. Next, when it comes to Omega's labored wave cannon, you can avoid it by rolling under him and moving to the side. But in this case, I realized mid-roll that I was still going to get clipped because I didn't dodge far enough. So I immediately used my Morph Slash and managed to land a guard point, which turned into a perfect guard. Now, I could have followed up by activating my Savage Axe here, but I didn't react fast enough to the guard point, which is definitely a missed opportunity. And finally, let's talk about the flamethrower again. So in this clip below, you'll see me using the Savage Axe to deal damage, but as soon as I noticed the flamethrower animation, I instantly Morph Slash back into shield mode. Now, there's two layers of defense here. The first is that if you time it right, you get to land your guard point like we showed earlier. But, if that doesn't work, just hold down the shield button during your Morph Slash, so like the shield comes out immediately after the attack animation. So in this case, I land a perfect guard once again, but I didn't transition it into a Savage Axe, which was a mistake, maybe. However, if you see right after, Omega starts bombarding the area with mortar fire, frost bombs, and atomic rays. So maybe holding defense was a better option instead of using your Savage Axe. It's a tough call. Alright, once you enter area 3, make sure you switch to your Coot Light Bowgun. And you want to start by paralyzing Nerscylla and then fire your adhesive ammo. Then activate your rapid fire gauge and begin pelleting Omega with your flame ammo. So this is the same DPS check strategy that we've been using for other Savage Omega builds, and it's just super consistent and effective. And since we're playing range as well, most of Omega's attacks can't reach us, giving us clearer view of the battlefield, so you can see endemic life, you can see when Omega's attacks clearly telegraphed and everything. So it's a really good weapon to use against Omega. And you definitely don't want to use your charge blade here. You just don't want to. You just use your ranged weapon. Alright, so another thing you want to do as well is you want to equip your Rocksteady Mantle, because it prevents knockdowns and helps you maintain consistent damage output throughout this phase. Other than that, the strategy is pretty straightforward. Just aim and shoot. Now, let's talk about using Savage Axe mode again. So as you can see in this clip below, I'm basically using my focus mode and kind of angling the camera upwards so I can get a unique angle to be able to use my Savage Axe mode. So you'll see me perform an Amped Elemental Discharge follow-up while smoothly dodging Omega's counters. So this camera setup really helps you maneuver your weapon more precisely during the Savage Axe combos. And remember, Savage Axe is where you gain major buffs and deal huge damage, but the key is maintaining control. So focus on attacking the rear legs when you can for maximum sever damage, pop wounds whenever they appear to open up safe damage windows, and block consistently. Even if it means sacrificing hit windows, defense always comes first in this matchup. So make sure you use your Morph Slash to be able to get your guard points, or hold the shield button down to be able to guard. Just follow that rhythm, attack the rear legs, pop wounds, stay disciplined with your blocks, and just keep dealing damage until Omega retreats into area 4, where we'll move on to the final phase of the fight. So for area 4, there's not really that big of a difference. Just be cognizant of the fact that Omega is going to start launching a lot of projectiles, like, MRV, mortar fires, stuff like that, he's gonna start pelleting the area. So make sure you don't get caught in those, because your shield just isn't gonna be able to withstand a lot of those attacks, even though we are using guard up, and even if your shield is charged. So just look out for that. But besides that, you know, all of the rules and maneuvers that we've talked about in the previous areas still apply. All right, let's head to the equipment and decoration so you can copy this build and use Charge Blade to farm Savage Omega. All right, guys, here's all the equipment, decorations, talisman, basically everything that you need to be able to copy this build, copy this playstyle, and farm Savage Omega. So if you have any questions, or like you need any help with your build, just post them in the comments. If you have any playstyle questions or like matchup questions, just post it down. If you need any help at all, just post it. And on top of that, I also want to give a shout out to the Savage Omega Discord server that I talked about previously. So if you need people to hunt with, check the link below in my description, because there'll be a link to that Discord server so you can join and play with some other people. All right, guys, let me know if you need anything else, and take care. See ya.